All right, we just clicked over to 1 o'clock, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. Hi, everybody. Welcome to WiLSWorld Shorts with the Wisconsin Latinx History Collective. I hope everyone is keeping nice and cool today. It is a scorcher out there. My name is Andrea Coffin. I'm a community liaison and service specialist with WiLS. And before we jump in, I wanted to share a little bit about how we got to where we are today, all sharing this space. For the webinar, part of my job with WiLS is as a consortium manager for Recollection Wisconsin, which is our statewide collection of digital historical resources that we bring together from over 200 partner organizations in the state. And when I learned about the collective, I thought, yes, let's connect. Our job as Recollection Wisconsin is in amplifying our state's historical record. And that historical record has ignored very significant portions of our state's history and populations. And we have an obligation to undo that. And in any way that we can, knowing that we can't go back in time. But when Dr. Arenas and I met, I learned that she was trying to connect into Latinx communities across the state in order to document their experiences. I thought, hey, I know of some organizations that are really good at connecting into their communities and also want to build stronger relationships with their Latinx populations. That's libraries, and WiLS has 600 members of them. So let's get you in front of those members, and here we are. So today I am thrilled to introduce you to Dr. Tess Arenas. She is the founder and lead of the Wisconsin Latinx History Collective. She's the founder and director of the Somos Latinos Digital History Project, and she is Emerita faculty affiliate with the Chicano and Latinx Studies program at UW-Madison. And with that, I am going to turn it over to her.
Hi, everyone. This is Tess. Thanks so much for joining us today. When I saw the registration list and the institutions who are participating, I was absolutely thrilled for 1,000 reasons, which I hope to share a little bit with you this afternoon. I'd like to start out with a little story about myself. I was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have a great love of the state. I spent my summers up until my mid-teen years up in Saxville, Weyowega, Wapaka area, where my German grandparents had a series of summer homes. And while I was at UW System, I was the vice president of academic diversity and development, which meant I traveled the state to visit the 26 campuses and just fell in love with Wisconsin even more. And so this is a personal endeavor for me as well as a professional endeavor, because I believe Wisconsin has a great history, has a great Latinx history, and I'm excited that there are so many representatives from the state in this meeting today. And the other thing I would point out is I was talking to my husband this morning. I said, you know, libraries were my refuge. Again, growing up in Milwaukee, low-income family, I'm a first-generation college student. I lived at the Oklahoma Library on the south side of Milwaukee. And you know how you walk 3 miles? Well, I walked 3 miles. I walked 3 miles to sit in the library all weekend. They weren't open on Sundays, but it was my refuge. And I just have the warmest feeling about libraries. So it's just great to be connected with WiLS. I'd like to get started. What I'll do is give you an overview of the organization, our goals, and then move into how your organizations might be able to participate in the future, and then leave some time for questions if you have them. If you don't, well, we end early. Okay, so Andrea's going to manage this wonderful presentation students created for me this semester, and it's my first time trying it out. So wish us luck. All right, Andrea, do you want to move to the core team? All right, the collective is just what it is, a collective of like-minded people, both community members, and faculty, staff, and students at campuses in Wisconsin and out of Wisconsin, actually. We have Rutgers, UT Austin, and UT San Antonio also involved in this, given the Tejano, Wisconsin diaspora with migrant and other workers. And we're all working, not at the same time, to document Latinx history in the state. But I have a core team of people that I rely on to help me with my decisions, because I don't feel comfortable doing it without group input. And it's a wonderful array. We have Sergio Gonzalez from Marquette, who authored Mexicans in Wisconsin for the Wisconsin Historical Society. Armando Ibarra, he is a Chicanx Latinx Studies Director and also is affiliated with the School of Workers. We have Cheryl Jimenez Fry, at a historian and Latin American historian at UW Eau Claire. We have Almita Miranda in geography and Chicano studies at Madison, Marla Tejado Ramirez in geography and Chicano studies at Madison, and Diego Roman, curriculum instruction, who is focusing on bilingual education and Chicano studies at Madison. Madison is the lead campus. Given my affiliation, it's a research-heavy institution under the Carnegie designations, and it's important to have a heavy hitter like Chicanx Latinx Studies as part of our 3-member team of leaders. So next, we'll go into areas of interest. And this is where you can put your thinking cap on and think about what has gone on, what do you know about in your area that might relate to these topics. This list was provided by the Wisconsin Historical Society, our second major partner. So far we have UW-Madison and the Wisconsin Historical Society. And they provided this list of topics that they use to form collections. And any topic in and of itself could be numerous collections. So they're broad categories. And then you can drill down into your geographic region on that topic and help document there. So it really does span a great number of topics. And rather than read them all, you can see them. I mean, say them all, you can see them. But we start with agriculture and end in transportation. A friend of mine who looked at this and said, what don't they focus on? Because there are so many topics. There's 14 of them. But each one of them allows us to look at the Latinx community from a different set of historical lenses. And so, for example, military is a topic. We have one gentleman, George Banda in Milwaukee, who is interviewing Latino Vietnam vets and 1 or 2 Korean War veterans who are still with us. So that's an example of how you drill down. And then let's go up to Wisconsin Community Profile. All right. Now, on the side, we have population. So let's click on Milwaukee. So here you can see the population, you can see the percent of Latinx, and this helped us look at what cities to start our work in. And my motto is you start with the low-hanging fruit. Who wants to do this? And what are the largest hubs that we can cover so we can get our grounding in the city? So we have folks in Milwaukee and Madison. We can scroll down. We have Madison, La Crosse, Green Bay, Racine, Kenosha. And that's where our work has started. But there are many other hubs within the state that could use documentation. And I think one of the interesting things about the Latinx community in Wisconsin is it's really on an uptick. When I actually researched some of the cities that you reside in to look at your population growth with Latinx. And many of the cities I looked at experienced significant Latinx increase between 2000 and 2010 census. In some cases, tripled their Latino population. And that's the trend in Wisconsin, is we're the largest minority / people of color population, and we're also the fastest growing. And I believe in the last census, last census I found this data for was 2010, and 45% of the Latinx are born in Wisconsin. So there's both the residents and those who come to work and then perhaps move on and work elsewhere, whether it's food service or agribusiness and the like. So we're a growing population, and the fastest growing in Wisconsin. It's interesting, in Milwaukee, my hometown, they would have lost their population would have decreased significantly in the last census of 2020 if it hadn't been for the Latinx population growth. And so it's just an indicator of who we are and who we will be within Wisconsin. And that makes our work all the more relevant, I think. Okay, participating institutions. Our third partner is Chicano Mirasa, which is on the side of the slide there. Chicano Mirasa is located right now in Houston, or they have it, I think it looks like it's in San Antonio, but it's actually Houston. Chicano Mirasa is how I got started in this work. They documented Chicana activists from the movement. We call it El Movimiento in the late 60s, early 70s. And it was a huge impact nationally, not just in Texas, that movement. And the founders, Maria Cotera and Linda Garcia Merchant, interviewed over 40 movement Chicana activists. And they were, over age 60, closer to 75. And they asked me after visiting Madison campus if I'd be interested in interviewing a few Latinas. And I said, well, yes, but let's do the state, not just the city of Madison. And I built it in my courses. And Linda from Chicana trained me in the video work, methodology, and also Troy Reeves from the UW-Madison Oral History Project was incredibly gracious in getting me grounded in all of this. And so they're our third organizational partner, and we couldn't live without them. It was their idea to put the Somos Latina collection online at the Wisconsin Historical Society, and it's my understanding it's the first video series online for them, and it was very exciting. And so we're looking to the next stage with a collective to do similar things, go online with oral history interviews, maybe archives. It's all a big dream right now, so we'll see how much funding we get, which is another part of my job, and see what we can get online. But it's an exciting time, and it all started with Chicano Mirasa. Okay, now it says research topics again. What does that say? What are we doing there? Oh yes, Now, this is some of the work that's going on in the state currently under the collective. In Madison, we have people interviewing more Latina activists over the age of 50. Somos focuses on our elder women because we want to document them before they pass. And we have had women who've been documented who passed away shortly thereafter, and we were very lucky to have them in the collection. So we're adding to the Somos work. We're also looking at immigrant experiences. Some of the faculty from Madison are teaching courses, and then their students go out and do the work. There's the VOSA student project, I believe it's the Latinx Cultural Center at Madison campus, which their students is running an arm of research for oral history and documenting folks from whatever vantage point, a research topic they want. We have the Texas and Mexican migration stories being recorded, and we have some wonderful grad students working on that particular project. Then we have the Indigenous Farmers, dairy farmers in Wapaka. Diego Roman from Madison and a team of students, independent study students, started working on this spring, and they're out there working right now, and they're interviewing in Wapaka and Weyuwega, one of my other favorite towns. Weyuwega has the best public pool on the planet, if you haven't ever been there. And it's a really interesting population because we're doing Latinx, not just Chicano, Mexicano, or Mexican American. Those are all derivatives of each other. But the bottom line is Mexican heritage in there. We move beyond that because Wisconsin is an ethnically diverse Latinx state, unlike the Southwest, where the Texas, California, Nevada, Colorado are predominantly Mexican American, Florida, Cubans, New Jersey, Puerto Ricans, and New York. We're not just looking at those populations, we're looking at all of the ethnicities, because that's one of the rich aspects of our Latinx population. And the story about these dairy farmers, they're from two tribes of Ecuador, and they came up and worked as dairy workers. And now two of them own dairy farms. And so Diego and his team are up there conducting interviews and documenting their life contributions, businesses, and the like. So is there more on that on topics? And we've got people looking at the Latina Task Force, which is a group I was involved in Milwaukee, and we worked on policy issues for Latinas. A lot of our nonprofits weren't serving us, our Latin nonprofits, male-centric, as were the services, and we kind of took that on. So that's being documented here. We're looking at housing within the Madison area. Oh, Diego's doing the farming, dairy farmers. We have Mark Frey from Dane Arts will be documenting Latinx artists, including painters and poets and sculptors and film producers. Very exciting development is Mark Carreño, my former director at WMBS TV Public Television, is donating all of his films and documentaries, raw footage, to the Historical Society that's related to Latinx in Wisconsin. We have Ricardo Gonzalez, who's going to document the Cardinal Bar. And if you're not from Madison, that does, okay, why a bar? Well, the Cardinal was much more than a bar. It was a Latino hub because the owner was Cuban, and it was also the first, or one of the first, gay bars in Madison. So one night it was gay folks, another night it was Latinos, and it was quite the hub. It's still going, but Ricardo doesn't own it. Then we're looking at Latinas in the Midwest, those who came into the state through other regions of the Midwest. So you get a flavor of what work is going on, and this isn't all of it, but you get a flavor of how we're approaching this. And generally, when an organization comes on board, it's the goodness of fit between that organization and its personnel who want to be involved, and the community, what aspects they want to focus on. I can make suggestions on how to get started, but it really matters if it comes from you. So for example, I noticed that the Center for Railroad and Photography and Art registered. I'm not sure if they're here with us today, but certainly that organization would already have an inkling of where they want to go if they wanted to become part of this work. And so now I'd like to move into what could be the roles of those who've registered for the event. We currently have, I'm delighted to say, as a result of Andrea's work, who's been incredibly supportive, we have the Beloit Library, who's joined the effort, and the Kenosha Library. And I'm just so grateful. I believe Beloit will help us look for historical documents and potentially conduct oral history interviews. Kenosha will do oral history interviews. And then with those two libraries, one of the things I can do or attempt to do is find a faculty member at a campus nearby, public or private, because I really want to strengthen our private participation. And so I can try to have a faculty member work with the library. Another option would be to have a community leader, community researcher partner with a library to help along. And we have a training manual, 56 pages of details and protocols, forms required, etc. And then I'm available, as are others in the core team that you saw earlier. We're available to consult anytime along the process. You know, that's our responsibility, is to support those doing field work. We're all doing field work, by the way, the 7 core members. We're all doing it, but that's another aspect of our role as core members, is to support those in the field, both community researchers, organizations like yourself, and anyone else that wants to be involved. So the good news is you're not alone when you decide, if you decide to get involved. We're here to serve, and if we don't have the answer, we will find someone who knows. And it's a learning experience. Every time someone joins, they come up with a question I've never thought of, and we find out the answer together. So the organizations can determine where they focus. And again, when I looked at the array of people registered, we have both libraries. We have Viterbo. If you're here, shout out to you. Jesus Yamrina from Viterbo is working with us. And we also have school districts. We have Beloit, Schulzberg, Milwaukee Public Schools, and the Department of Public Instruction. And so I'd like to share what school districts can do, or schools. I believe it was spring, Escuela Verde in Milwaukee, which is a alternative high school, a faculty instructor there, Jeremy Alt, and his partner, Santiago Chavez, created a course in which they used the book Somos Latinas. The students read, viewed videos that were online at the Historical Society, and then produced an overview of their own lives on video. And most of these students are Spanish speaking and immigrants. And looking at their reflections, Jeremy and I worked very closely that semester, back and forth, supporting each other. And the reflections on the students' part were just breathtaking, just so impressed that reading materials about themselves and then focusing in on their own lives as a part of our oral history project was such a boost to these young folks. The other thing I would point out is, since Somos, it has been the heart of our work is the college students, and the feedback from the college students have been incredibly positive. And I have students who are still volunteering 5 years after graduation because they love the work so much. So let's go back to the K12 example. I'm also in negotiations, but we keep missing each other, with Nuestro Mundo School here in Madison. And it's a Spanish immersion school. The students come in usually speaking English, and then they're enrolled to learn Spanish. And we're negotiating how those students can be involved in documenting Latinx history. So there are ways for high schools to offer courses or projects in after-school activities, although students are so busy these days with after-school. But you can develop a course, incorporate Latinx history in the course, and then part of that, their assignment might be to collect family photos or interview a family member or a neighbor, whomever they care to document. And my idea is we have to get young people started in history early, and high school is a perfect time to consider this work. And again, based on reflections from the student learning outcomes from Escuela Verde High School, the students loved it. And then I noticed that we have the remainder of the participants are from libraries. And there are certain cities that are really, really stand out to me. And it doesn't mean if I don't say your city, your library, I'm not interested. It's just some cities I've been trying to crack since Somos in 2012. So I'm delighted to hear that a ROM library registered in Delavan. I've been working to find contacts in Delavan for a very long time. We also have Monarch Library in Sheboygan. Need to crack that city. Very big Mexican and some Puerto Ricans in Sheboygan. The Chilton area, really important area. And then Appleton, the whole Fox Valley is so rich with Latinx, whether it's Appleton, Nina Menasha, and then moving a little further into the Wapaka and other areas. But the Fox Valley is a hub we have to get to. And then there are, Hayward, Wisconsin. Haywood with such an interesting tale here. In 2000, they had 0.85 Latinos in the 2000 census. In 2010, 2.5. So there's an example where the population in 10 years has grown significantly. So Latinx have been in the state since the 1800s, and we're continuing to grow based on birth within the area and migration, whether it's from another country or another state. So there's plenty of material we could be documenting. So I'm going to stop and let you ask me questions and be as specific as you need to be to help you decide what you want to do. And nobody wants a question.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. This is Xander. I'm with Kenosha actually, and I
Oh,
know
nice.
one of the things we were doing that was like part that spurred us is a kind of project that is asking like people's experiences and histories and our location. And we were doing that before, like when then we'd heard of this, and we're like, I wonder if that fits in, which is
Yeah.
part of where we're getting the oral histories. That does fit in for sure.
Yeah.
Is what Awesome. I just wanted to double check on that because it's, I mean, as we're working towards it, we wanted to make sure we're going in the right direction there.
Yes, absolutely. Oral history, archive collecting, and historical document research. And librarians I love librarians as a grad student, and now, if you ask for a resource, they're incredible in finding things. And so we'll be looking for historical records from the area. So it's all three. It's oral history, and that can be audio or video recorded. The past year, we've collected We've been in existence for a year. In the past year, we've collected interviews, and they're all Zoom-based because of the pandemic. Quite frankly, I prefer Zoom-based. There's no travel and no cost involved for travel. And when I would have to go with the students that were doing the SOMOS work, I did 40 road trips with the students, which was a wonderful time. I mean, I loved it. But that's expense, and it takes a whole day. Zoom-based meetings or interviews, you do them for the hour, you're done. And we edit later. And so, yes, oral history is part of this. And again, it could be audio or recorded video in the format that you're comfortable with. I believe it's either below, I can't recall now, Kenosha said that you have video cameras and a room set up for interviews, if I'm recalling this right.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh God,
So that's
I didn't
what
forget.
We've been using.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Kenosha and Racine too, because it's one of the oldest Latinx hubs in the state. Whereas those further out are within the past 50 years. Racine, Kenosha, Milwaukee, and Madison, and Delavan are older communities and have a longer history there. So yes, you're right in our wheelhouse, and we love it.
There was a message in chat from Appleton Public Library interested in connecting with you about tapping into the history of the Fox Valley. I did want to let everybody know that with the recording that I'll send to everyone who registered, I'll also share Dr. Arenas' contact info so you can connect with her directly.
Yes, my life's an open book. You just reach out. I love Appleton being in this mix because back in the 70s, when I was doing work on SOMOS, I went through some archives at the Historical Society and found out that there was an organization known as La Raza, R-A-Z-A, the people, which is what Mexicans sometimes refer to themselves. There's a long history to that. You have to read Mexico Profundo to understand that. But we call ourselves La Raza Cósmica, the cosmic race. And there was an organization in Appleton in the 70s known as La Raza, and I didn't know there were Mexicans in Appleton. And the funny part is the German part of my family still live in Appleton. Now they're Wapakoneta and Appleton. And I just never knew we were there. And so I'm very interested in learning about Appleton specifically and the Fox Valley region generally, because it's underrepresented and I know we're there. So Appleton, we need to talk. That would be too amazing. Anything else? Have any of you gone online to look at the Somos collection? That would be a nice place to determine one of the approaches you can use when doing oral history. It's at wisconsinhistory.org/Somos Latinas. And that's where the online videos are that were undergraduate produced and transcriptions, which are searchable. Well, Historical Society did an amazing job putting these online. And the reason I love that they're searchable is it's incredibly helpful for researchers. And that's one of the aspects of the work we're doing for the collective, is to produce materials that scholars in post-secondary and K12, they're all scholars. Any educator is a scholar. And give them an example of what can happen in an interview. Now, in Somos, the students frame the questions themselves. I gave them total autonomy. Whatever you want to know is what you ask. I reviewed the questions. Very few times did I ever change anything. But after researching the person, they created a list of questions. I reviewed the research and the questions, and they took it away. Some of the students added music to their videos as background and graphics. Others did not. With the collective, we have a standard set of introduction questions, which are mostly biographical. Tell us about your family, place of birth, parents' occupation, immigration or migration. And then standard wrap-up questions. But the body of the interview is yours if you're leading the interview. It's what you want to ask them, again, based on the research you've been able, the documents you've been able to uncover about this particular person. You know, not everyone is going to have documentation. You know, my dad was a janitor. The probability of him being in a newspaper or a journal article is pretty slim. So in that case, you have a pre-interview conversation and learn a little bit about them and then formulate questions. And then you share those questions with your interviewee prior to it. You use them in the interview, and then you share the interview with the interviewee, so he or she or they can edit. Because sometimes we get on a roll and say some things that in hindsight, ooh, I think I want that out. There's also the possibility of delaying the publication or making it public on our release form. So everyone has to sign a form from the Wisconsin Historical Society that allows us to record them and use the recordings. And they're also a gift form for archives. And that's detail that if you're involved, we'll work with you on. But there is the opportunity to delay the release of an interview in the event that some of the material is sensitive, either to yourself, a family, a company, a municipal office, So if you're having a fight with the mayor of your 2,000 population city, you might not want that online in the next 5 years. You might say, well, let's wait 10. And you're allowed, there's a place on that form to say when it can be released so that no one is in jeopardy. And so you have, again, intro, body of the questions are yours, wrap up. And then usually what happens is after the oral history interview, that's when we start thinking about archival documents from that individual. And that's, now that the pandemic's subsiding, that will require road work, where we go out and we, meaning any member of the collective that's doing this, would go back out and go through their archival materials. And during SOMOS, we had such interesting archives donated. For example, one woman became a U.S. citizen, activist here in the Madison area, Gladys Benavides. And when she became a citizen, a friend made her a kind of like a parchment paper story about Gladys coming to the U.S. from Colombia, with funny magazine pictures and hilarious captions. And it was just amazing. You really got to know Gladys as a fun-loving woman, which is sometimes people don't understand. You can be an activist and get out there and rumble the leaves a little bit. That doesn't mean you're not fun. And it was just a wonderful way to look at her in a new light. And we've also had original sketches donated. There was an artist at one time that was documenting people from the movement here in Wisconsin, and a woman donated those. Others have donated their immigration papers. Maria Cruz, my dear friend in Milwaukee, who's now 82, has a really huge collection of archives, and we have yet to get through them all. She has pen pal letters. When she was a young girl in Kansas, Humboldt, Kansas, she was a pen pal with a young Chicano in World War II. She has those letters. And I know Maria since I'm about 35 and nearly 70. So I've known her a long time. But to hear what she was like in this child mind is just so, it's cute, it's tearful, and it's what makes an interview really have a context. So oral history interview and then archival work. The last aspect of the collective's work is to have Latinx share a story about an artifact. Now, at the Historical Society Museum, there's a nomination process because there's limited space, which is why when you donate archives, they don't take plaques, statue awards. There's no space. It's really, we're looking at documents, paper. And so, no, I forgot where I was. Somebody remind me. Oh, artifacts, right. So the museum at the Historical Society is interested in increasing their artifacts, and that's a nomination process. So in stage 3, we hope to have our interviewees share and show an artifact, a cultural artifact that's important to them, and explain why. And although it's a nomination process, people might say, well, then, my chances are what, 1 in 10? I actually don't know the chances, but those clips will be incredibly important for the training of the museum staff. So it's a very valuable contribution. So I collect I can't bring them to you right now. I collect Day of the Dead figures, antique ones from like the late 1800s, early 1900s, tiny little clay figures. And if I were talking about an artifact, I might hold up one of my favorites. I have a lot about teaching, little clay ones with blackboards or chalk on the wall. I mean, so I might share one of those. And someone else might talk about the guitar their father used to play around the campfire when they were out on their camping trips. But this is a very important aspect of helping the museum become familiar with what's culturally relevant. So there's 3 stages: oral history, archives, and then artifact overview and nomination. And we hope that by 2025 that we'll have made a significant dent in retrofitting Latinx into Wisconsin's history. The latest development is we're in the running. We received a grant from UW-Madison for $120,000, and that will fund oral history work, stipends for those interviewed. We will be issuing gift cards to those interviewed. And then we're trying to find ways to support individuals like our community researchers with any overhead they might have, up to $200. I mean, it's not mega millions here. And then, so that's one grant. And then our team just submitted a planning grant with Mellon and the National Public Records Center. And that is a 2-year grant to plan. And it's looking at how to produce digital editions, AKA magazine articles that combine oral history and in particular scholarly work in an accessible language and format. And so that's the planning grant. And if we receive that, and we'll hear in November, and they were very positive about our application because we're so far down the road compared to other organizations trying to document. We're optimistic, but you never know. And if we were to receive that 2-year planning, we're eligible for a 10-year grant to support the production of digital editions, which could use your interviews, your archives, or historical documents you uncovered. So that means the work would go far beyond 2025. I won't be involved that far down the road. I think 2025 will be it for me, and then you let the young ones do it. But so we are thinking long term. But this is an initial kickoff by speaking to you today and sharing what we dream about, and hopefully plant a seed. Anyone have any other thoughts now? I see chats, but I don't know what they're.
Mostly me.
Oh, it's mostly you. You talk a lot, Andrea.
Inviting questions. You can either throw them in chat or unmute.
And Andrea learned a new term working with me. We're tocayas. Tocayas, tocayas. And that's a designation amongst the Mexican community when people have the same first name. And it implies a kindred spirit or spiritual connection. So Andrea is my tocaya, and I am hers. Well, I don't see a lot of questions here. I think by going online and looking at the digital collection at the Historical Society for Somos, you'll get a sense of what the students produce, and it may give you ideas on how you want to approach this work if you're interested. And you may not be interested this year. I mean, we're all incredibly busy, and no harm, no foul. You listened. It's not for you at this time. Maybe 3 years down the road, it might be time. There might be some time that you could dedicate to this. Clearly, if you're in the food service area, you have food service industries, you're going to have Latinos. And I want to point out that, and I don't know which one it is, which city right now, but it's a small city, and they registered, and I look at the population, and the Latinx are minuscule, if exist at all. And then I looked up industries in the area, and it's migratory workers who work in the canning industry. And that's a big change in perspective. Years ago, I did a diversity audit of a small campus. They wanted to improve what they were doing. And that was my job at the time. I was the vice president at UW-Sisto on race ethnic issues. And so I did this audit, and I interviewed about 25 faculty, and then did a town gown assessment. I went to their libraries, I read their newspapers, I visited hangouts, and to see how the city operated and any connection to Latinx. And during the interviews with the folks on campus, so many of them were committed to diversity, but said they weren't able to have any interactions because their city was all white. And again, this is a small city, one town, one main street. And it was heartbreaking because on Main Street was a United Migrant Opportunity Services office. And they serve those who come in during harvest or canning. And it broke my heart because we lived there and worked there, a third, 2/3 of the year, depends on the crop. And yet the university said we don't have any. We weren't seen as part of them. And then I can't tell you which of the cities right now that I looked up. I said, where are they? I don't see any Latinos. And then I looked up the industries, and they had data on the canning industry and the employment of Latinos, which is seasonal. So whichever city this is, I bless you, because that is a very big change. What you're saying is, even though we aren't there full time around the clock for a year, you still consider us part of the community. That's a huge shift in perspective. And that's really about the collective's goal, to shift perspective on us, all of us in the Latinx community, to have, always suffered some kind of discrimination. But as I say in my introduction materials for this group, the past 5 years have been horrendous for us, horrendous. Hate crimes are up, including Wisconsin, against us. I don't even want to, some of the stuff that has happened in the Milwaukee area and small, it's scary. I mean, acid thrown on people's faces, houses set on fire, crazy stuff. And so we're really committed that by showing the diversity within the Latinx community, documenting our lives within Wisconsin can really help. And so with that, I'm going to stop. And if there's no further questions, we can call it an afternoon or further comments.
There is a question in chat about the release form, and Linda is interested in knowing if it's the same release form as the Wisconsin Historical Societies.
We have our own version of that in which we inserted, you can delay release of the materials. So we went the extra step by giving people a chance because of either immigration status or other sensitive issues. So it's their form, same wording, but we have it in Spanish and English, and we have another option, which is we don't immediately release.
Thank you. Any other last questions?
Someone said you could get a copy of that form. Yep, be in touch and I'll send it out. I can send, for those interested, the toolkit is online. It's 56 pages, but it's mostly forms and tips. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We call it the Collective Toolkit. And the forms are all in there.
Well, thank you so much, Tess, for
No.
joining us for this hour today. What a delight.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. You've been wonderful. And I'm so excited at the possibilities with libraries and schools and campuses across the state. We all love Wisconsin. I know I do. And it's time to show another side of who we are. And I appreciate you listening in this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. I did want to share really quickly before we take off is that we do have another WiLSWorld Shorts coming up next month. And oh my gosh, I have buttons open everywhere. With Susan Maniloff of Omnigraphics, and she's going to share some information about conducting a diversity audit and how to respond to the results of it. So if you're interested in attending that, the link is there. I will also send that out with the recording, and you can register on our WiLSWorld Shorts page. So thank you so much again, Tess. This was delightful. I'm really glad that we could get you in front of our members, and I hope that we do some brilliant matchmaking and that you're able to connect into all the communities you're interested in connecting into.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Take care.